Rasmus, take us back to 2016 and the decision that Brentford made as a club to scrap their academy and go with this B-team model instead.
So whenever we had a 15 or 16-year-old player that we thought, well, could go all the way, you know, a big club came in and signed them really, and we felt that with the compensation rules that are in place, which are, I think, massively in favor of big clubs, then, you know, it was not really worth the investment.
I think because where we are in London, to try and compete with other teams, if we'd done the same thing, I think we would struggle. We've got so many London clubs, especially that were higher up in the leagues than us. So I think it was Rob Rowan come up with the idea, and it was just something to be different, to stand out, to try and attract maybe foreign players as well.
Instead of having to fight all these big clubs with bigger budgets, can we make them not our enemies but our friends somehow? And that's why we created the B team. And you will see that quite a lot of the players of the B team have been at some of those big clubs and been rejected or released. And we think, you know, there's potential in picking some of those up and giving them a pathway.
It doesn't hurt to have a USP in the market. There's different ways of developing players, and you know, it is helpful to be able to sell something different to players and get them to come and play for us.
To what extent was losing someone like Ian Poveda to Manchester City a tipping point? I mean, what was the compensation you got for him? £30,000?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, you know, it wasn't that he was the reason, but in the process of evaluating our setup, that happened. We lost him to Man City, and it became evident to us that the model we had wasn't the right model for us.
It's difficult to invest money in 8, 9, 10-year-olds and know you're going to get a return on that investment, whereas when you focus on older age groups only, like we do, and be more confident.
We want to make a squad of young players between 16 and 20 or something like that, with a lot of potential, who is 100% aligned in style of play, culture, training drills, everything. So it hopefully should be so much easier for those players to take a step up to the first team.
When we decided to make the B team decision, the previous 5 years, I don't think we have a single debutant from the academy. Since we made the B team decision and introduced that concept, we had more than 15.
I think there's a clear focus among the club about getting players from the B team in the first team. Clearly the players have to be good enough. That's the first prerequisite. So there's a clear focus on getting players who are good enough. We put ourselves under pressure by making a big decision like that, and if we don't get players through and they aren't playing in our team, then yeah, we look a bit silly.
How's Brexit affected the model? Would you have been able to have brought in then the likes of Mads Bech Sorensen, Brian Burmo, Saeed Benrahma as well over the last few years, had Brexit happened earlier?
No, I mean we did, like, one of the first things we did when the new rules came out was to run all the players we recruited in the past few years through the Brexit point system. And yeah, to be honest, I mean there was not a lot of players that would have gone through. Like even Neil Maupay and Saeed Benrahma were Premier League players today. That door is closed now. I mean, because of Brexit, and that's something that we are reconsidering now. What are we going to do about that? We will continue with the B team, I'm pretty sure, but we will need to make some twists to it. We have to be much more focused on players within UK, and that's something we're looking at now.
It is a marginal game where we need to find the small areas where we can improve or be slightly ahead of our opponents.
How much of this project is down to Rob Rowan, who tragically died but leaves a real legacy at Brentford, doesn't he?
Yeah, we got this board that shows all the debutants down at the training ground, and it's called the Rob Rowan board, and I think it tells a lot about his influence on that decision. I mean, it was really Rob who executed it. I think it's been very successful. There's a lot of good things that come out of this decision.